Despite decades of legislation and policy, it's well known that in the workplace, women don't find it as easy to advance their careers as men do, perhaps particularly at senior level. There's a rich array of research looking at why this should be the case: glass ceilings, gender stereotyping, work and family, and yet the phenomenon still exists. Why should that be? I'm Gatrell from the University of Liverpool, and myself and my co-authors, Cary from the University of Manchester and Kossek from Purdue University, are offering in our paper on maternal bodies an alternative perspective or explanation for this phenomenon. We suggest that one subtle reason for why women might experience less career advancement at work than men might be because the maternal body is regarded as taboo at work. And women, we suggest, may be judged on their capacity for reproduction rather than for their abilities or their performance in the workplace. To examine this, we draw upon the work of Mary Douglas, the social anthropologist, and we look at the relationship between what we term women's maternal bodies and their workplace experience and advancement. By maternal bodies, we're looking most particularly at the point where women might be pregnant or new mothers, perhaps nursing infant children. But we extend the idea beyond that, also to look at women's potential for maternity, perhaps before they have children, or if they never have children, or when they might be menopausal. And we suggest that women are evaluated on the possibility that they may have or have had children, regardless of whether or not this is the case. Looking at Mary Douglas's work, something which isn't usually associated with organisation studies, but indeed refers more commonly to anthropological understandings of tribal behaviours, we can see how in ancient tribes, women were judged as workers on the basis of whether or not they were likely to be having children. In particular, pregnant and newly maternal women workers were excluded very publicly from the processes of production, the main business of keeping the tribe going. If they were pregnant or breastfeeding, it was believed that they were unable to focus on tribal matters. And indeed, babies were seen as greedy, needy, and perhaps taking away the attention from tribal business and sites of tribal production. So, very explicitly, the maternal body, the pregnant or breastfeeding body, was declared taboo, and women were excluded from the sites of production. This was partly because maternal bodies were seen to be equivocal, ambiguous. How could it be that a woman could concentrate on a mode of production when indeed she was personally producing another human being? It was also seen as contextual. It wasn't that tribes didn't want the women to produce children, they did, but it was seen that the place for women who were pregnant or breastfeeding was in the home. We suggest that such ideas might spill over into the workplace. It's unlikely that they will be declared as such, but it might well be that in workplaces there is a discomfiture around the maternal body, perhaps a hidden idea that women who are pregnant can't concentrate on their jobs. It's known that such views are not substantiated. For example, there is research which shows that pregnant women who are assessed, for example, doing appraisals, receive a lower evaluation than the same women who appear not to be pregnant doing appraisals. So it's not necessarily fair, but it's the case. We also suggest that views about pregnancy and maternity as taboo extend beyond the idea of being pregnant and embrace menstruation and menopause. This, we suggest, originates in medical science, where women's bodies are portrayed as other. It's not uncommon, just look on Google, the website, to look at medical narratives about, for example, the menopause. Quite commonly, it will be stated that women have hormonal problems, that hormones wreak havoc with their judgment. It may well be that websites will also offer a view that the notion of hormones and their impact on women's judgment has not been medically proven. The jury is still out, but assumptions are made that women who are menopausal might not have such good judgment as, for example, equivalent men. This unsubstantiated view is highly problematic if you're a very senior woman in a position that requires decisions, because assumptions quite unfairly may be made that your judgment is less rational than the person sitting next to you. The problem with all this is that in the workplace, such views are not voiced. They're subtle, they're internalised. Procedures might be used. A pregnant woman can't do this or that job because of grounds of health and safety, rather than it being acknowledged that there may be unfair discomfiture with the pregnant body at work. So in future, we have some recommendations. First of all, that research needs to move beyond looking at the overt mechanisms which exclude women from senior level positions at work, and start to really deeply investigate those subtle reactions to the maternal body at work. More specifically, we think we need to move away from the notion that women are judged by their capacity for reproduction. Research must unearth where this happens and look at ways that it can be avoided, so that in future women may be judged on their capacity for excellent performance.